I'm Joni De Winter.
And I am Susan Grant.
And we are Bell Street,
who are an events band and a production company.
And we're here to talk to you about our fun and failures
on our journey from being scared to doing it anyway.
And today's guests, everybody, are brilliant. They were on our scary list, and we were encouraged by another one of our guests, Jerry Allen, to just go ahead and ask them. So we did.
And when we say scary, I mean they're not scary. But they are really such an inspiring duo with all their creative shows that they put out. And we have really enjoyed watching them and also getting to know them a little bit. And we could have talked for such a long time with them. So
please welcome Josef and Linus from Awkward Prods.
So today we are with a wonderful couple of people who are a production company and a couple of wonderful creatives, and we adore, we're trying not to be too fan gushy, but that's what we are. So we have Linus and Josef, who run and are... Run. You don't run?
We do actually. I'm wearing running shorts right now. Yeah.
You are.
And that's what we're going to talk about, marathons.
The Awkward Prod.
Hello.
There we go. Got through it.
Yeah. I interrupted about marathons. I'm really sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
Hi, how's it going?
You've been on our brave list for talking to for, well, since we came and saw Diana, the Untold and Untrue Story. When did we see that? 2 years ago. 2 years ago, were you in Bristol?
Yeah, I think first time we were in Bristol, it was probably then. That was
at the Alma,
December 2022.
Yeah.
We're back in 2023 as well in the autumn.
Yeah. Because someone recommended someone. Do you actually know Jason Maud, or is he another like a fangirl?
Yes, he's come to see the show in Poole and reviewed them as well, I think. Yeah.
Well, we go to him for advice that we ignore, and then he recommended that we came to see this, and we hadn't heard of it, so we went to go and see it, and ever since then we've been.
And he's also been on the podcast and also talked a lot about you.
Yes.
Oh, well, thank you for not ignoring his advice and coming to see us. The Alma's such a gorgeous venue. We really they were so supportive of us as we were growing as a company. So they'd taken. Up until Gwyneth, they took every show that we had made, and then there came a point where we just kind of couldn't quite fit into that space anymore. But I've got nothing but love for the Alma. They're just so supportive of Fringe Theatre.
It's fantastic. So we put you on our brave... Well, we started the podcast, which was never meant to have guests because we thought we'd be interesting enough, and then we realised we weren't. So... so then we just started to talk to people that we just... saw doing exciting things creatively, and we thought, let's just find out how they're doing it because we want to do it.
We were going to do one episode with guests, just their little snippets of their stories.
Yeah.
And we're now on season 4, and we've had 12, quite a few guests. So we would love to know, well, what you're doing right now, but also where you started and how it grew, because it as we're always trying to grow and get a little bit bigger and put on a new show, but it's like, where do you start? And yeah,
I've always found the best way to grow is an excessive amount of carbohydrates. That's what I've been doing. That's been going very well for me. So why don't you tell us the actual story?
Well, where we are right now is in Bristol, because we are on a tour of our show Diana, the Untold and Untrue Story, which we have been touring on and off since 2022. So this is I mean, I feel like this is the show that sort of like really helped us take off a bit. And whilst we're touring this, we are also currently creating our new show, The Fit Prince, who gets switched on the square in the Frosty Castle the night before insert public holiday here, which is sort of like a celebration or parody or satire of those like Netflix or Hallmark's holiday films, but very queer. And that show will open in at the Edinburgh Fringe this summer.
Yeah, so think the Knight before Christmas, A Castle for Christmas, the Princess Switch, all of those kind of gloriously self-aware and some less self-aware holiday movies. We're taking those, we're making them somehow gayer than they already are, and putting ourselves as the romantic leads. But we will, whatever time of year we perform it, it will be the nearest public holiday. So, you know, summertime or you know winter or autumn, whatever, there'll always be something where we can be like, oh no, it has to happen before Easter, and that works.
Hopefully.
So cool.
And how many are in that cast? Because they're
So
Well, so our shows rely, as you know, on a lot of audience participation, and we very much get audience members involved and on stage, etc. So the cast for the Fit Prince physically is 2 people. It's us plus.
well, 2.5 you
Yeah.
could say, because we also have our ASM, who and we sort of like started getting to perform quite a bit in Gwyneth, and then in this one we're pushing it a bit further, so she will actually like play multiple characters and have a bit of dialogue, but still not really like be a full actor in it, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So yeah, I think 2.5 is nice, but then we have a very exciting lineup of digital cast cameos that we aren't allowed to talk about yet.
But soon.
Well, I feel like whenever anyone says, "Oh, I can't talk about this thing yet, but it's very exciting," you're like, "Okay, cool, whatever." I am genuinely like off my tits about how excited I am about this cast lineup. Like it's when we can talk about it, I cannot believe that we have got the people that we've gotten involved. So
No.
it's going to be camp. And then obviously audience roles as well. We've got more audience roles than ever before. We're pushing our audience participation further than ever before. Don't know if you can hear the screaming child that's outside our window.
Clearly also very excited for our digital cast.
Very keen to take part. So yes, 2.5 plus 1,000,001 cameos and audience actors.
It's the most roles we've ever had in a show. So even if many of them aren't actually physically there.
Or being paid to be on stage because of the audience.
And also like some puppet roles. Obviously, we've got some very exciting puppet roles in the new one.
Brand new puppet being made for us at the moment, which is very exciting.
We looked into having puppets made of ourselves, but it was too expensive in the end, wasn't it? We just wanted to do little ABBA covers.
Yeah, behind a little counter.
Yeah.
They are expensive. Puppets are really, really crazy expensive. And what we've discovered is that actually to get the ones that are the most like reliable and like will last the test of time, especially the way that we put through them, you have to spend the big bucks, which is even more frustrating. But we love them. Right? It's such a huge part of our work now.
ABBA will feature quite heavily,
Or
ABBA-inspired things will feature quite heavily in the new show because it's set in Swedonia. You're actually wearing show.
This is a tester for the show merch, which doesn't exist yet properly.
have
It
not
says
shown
greetings
yet.
from Swedonia.
Love it.
The show is set in Swedonia, which may or may not be inspired by my native Sweden.
We have one listener in Sweden.
Oh, great.
Say hi to Phil.
It's my mother.
Hey, hello.
Your mum can... That would be nice.
That was more German.
He's not actually Swedish though.
No.
No, but he lives there.
Well, I can't speak Swedish anyway, so.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, the Fringe.
Yeah, we call him Swedish Phil.
Yeah.
Swedish Phil.
Great.
Shout out to
There's
Swedish.
a lot of mentions on this podcast, really. Mainly because he's our main international listener.
For now.
Yeah. Now, he might stop listening. No.
So did I hear right that the Diana show started in COVID? You wrote it in COVID. Did I make that up?
I thought actually. So
I mean, did COVID ever end? So yes, let's see. Well,
the main lockdown, you would have written the Jellicle show.
Yeah, so I wrote Diana in 2020. I mean,
2020.
like it started as a gift for Joseph's mom. She was turning 60.
I need some mum.
Yeah.
So I started writing it to her just as a little story we all could read out like around the kitchen table. And we couldn't then actually go to her actual birthday because of COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
So we had to do it a little bit later. So we all read it out. And at that point, hadn't really thought about it as something that would become like, you know, a stage show. So it's only later when I was sort of like looking through my documents, because I was working on something, but like I just couldn't really get that show going. And I was looking through like, what else do I have? Is there any other idea here that could be good? And I found this and I thought like, I should look at this. And I started going through it. And I was like, actually, I was just having a lot of fun with it. And I thought like, this could be a show. And
Maybe I can take this present and make it all about myself.
and I did.
No.
Seemed to
What's
work
the
out.
system when there's like just like one or two of you? How do you begin to like make a show? Like, do you workshop it with other people, or do you
It's a good question.
I think with Diana, because I wrote it just to like be read out around the kitchen table,
I
I
keep
wrote
saying kitchen table. That makes it sound like we have a big house. It's very much like the dining room table.
Yeah,
Our
yeah,
kitchen is not big enough for a table. Just want to make it clear. I might sound middle class, but we're not.
This little stool.
Yeah. A tiny little Victorian
Yeah.
child stool.
we read it out on the gravel, so we can't afford floor there. So we just sat on like a little pebble each and read this script out. I had to like etched it in on like wood we found in the forest because they couldn't afford paper.
Yeah, pretty standard for Northamptonshire village life.
But because I just wrote it for us to read it out, I didn't really like, you know, I didn't have to stick to. Otherwise, if I would started writing like, you know, a show for like that was a solo show like for a very small cost, obviously I'd take that into consideration. But now I was just like writing it as I pleased, and I included loads of characters and like, you know, magical entries and like all of those things. So it was only when I then started looking at it to actually make a show, I was like, there are so many characters in this show. How can I make that happen? Because I was like, I kind of needed it to be a solo show because I can't afford to put like to have a big cast or anything. So then I was like, well, what if the queen? Like I was thinking, like obviously knowing the wonderful Jerry Allen has just been on the podcast as well. I was like, there's no one else but her who can be this queen. So I was like, what if we get her involved and film videos with her so she can be involved that way? What if Charles and Camilla aren't played by people, but they are, you know, I thought like Charles could be a cardboard cutout because I think that also lends itself to like a lot of comedy. And because, you know, he represents the monarchy, he's very like, you know, dull and stiff. It kind of like making him this 2D cardboard cutout can really like play into that. And Camilla is obviously a demon puppet.
Obviously.
And then I feel like a lot of the like I thought it would be fun to really involve the audience, which was quite like scary at first because like I don't know if the audience will be up for this level of participation and if it will work. And same with the videos. I was like, we've never actually worked with that. I didn't want it to feel like, you know, people are watching something that doesn't feel live. Like, you know, like you got audience members reading lines, interacting with Jerry Allen, who was pre-recorded. So I was like, will this actually feel like a live show, and will it feel like a real character? But luckily, it seems to be working.
But when we actually kind of create the shows, my involvement at least with Awkward Prods has grown with every show that we've done, and it's like it started off existing as a way for Linus to do a solo show that he'd found in Foyles and Tottenham Court Road, and was like, I want to put on this pre-existing play. And then the Jellicle show came along because that was his passion project during COVID, and then the Diana show was already written stuff. So Gwyneth Goes Skiing was the first show that we wrote together, like it's both our names on the front of the script. And then see now same with the Fit Prince. But like we will, when we think it's at a point where we're happy enough with it, we will invite like like our close circle of people to be like, does this work? Have we gotten too caught up in our own brains and like, you know, enabling each other, which does happen. But we also, I think that the key thing is we do not let ourselves be restricted by the fact that, so we are the writers and the directors and the producers and the performers and all those things. But when we're writing it, we are only the writers. And there are frequently times where we'll say like, I don't know how this thing is going to work. And I don't think this thing is like physically possible, but that's a like that's a director problem. And like, so we have to write the version of the show that we want to see. And like that's kind of the most fun about it, is just getting caught up in the world that we're creating and then just being like, we'll figure it out, it'll work.
I love that. That's so good. We should think like that.
Well, we always find it funny that, you know, we talk about like when we were 9 or 10, we were, I mean, separately, we didn't know each other then, but would make up a show or a dance and then make our parents come in and watch us, or our friends, or, you know, charge them 50p or whatever. And it feels that we're pretty much doing that now together. Hi everyone, come and watch us.
For more money.
Buy a ticket.
Yeah.
Why not? What are we doing?
Yeah.
But
What we've made is really very good, and it's worth parting with your money for. That's the bit I always find quite weird. Like, it's really, really lovely that people come and see our shows and that we can do this full time. But there is something weird about how, like, without being too #deep about it, how do you validate yourself enough to say, yes, people, I am worthy, and the work I've created is worthy of people parting with money to see. But the trick is you just kind of have to decide that, because otherwise you'll do it.
But it's also people's decision.
Mm.
As in, like, it's not something they have to do, they choose to do it.
Yeah.
And have you had much interest or traction or anything with the names that you've used? Obviously with Diana and the royal family, and then Gwyneth, we saw sort of articles and things about all of that. Have you had any issues with writing or any names that you're not allowed to use, or does that
We have a couple of court cases ongoing. No, we don't.
Yeah. Well, when we first opened the Diana show, almost immediately we got like a very hateful article in the Daily Mail, because the show had got Arts Council funding as well, which was amazing. And the Daily Mail then wrote this article about, like, because at the time they had cut a lot of money from the National Opera. And they said, like, oh, how can they cut? Because it was something like, 18 million or something. How can they cut like 18 million from the National Opera, but instead fund this one? And I was just like,
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
I don't think it was an either or decision. Like, give this 18 million. Like,
Yeah.
I wish we had that budget for Diana. But they'd also got an old Tory minister from the 90s, like, commenting on it, who was saying, like, call it repellent trash. Always, like, without having seen it. And at first, when we sort of like learned, I got this email. I mean,
Your agent
they had contacted my agent at the time, late on like a Friday afternoon, and asked for a comment by like Saturday morning before they ran the piece. Obviously, like, they would have hoped that she hadn't seen it because they contacted her so late on Friday. But like, she, yeah, forwarded everything to me. And at first, they made it sound like really scary that they were going to run this piece, and they had spoken to, like, ministers and royal biographers and blah blah blah, and they were going to say how disrespectful the show was. So I was sort of like bracing myself for
It's quite scary.
potential like hate storm online or something. But then that never really happened, because I feel like we call the show Diana the Untold and Untrue Story. So obviously people can choose to be upset about how we portray certain members of the royal family, but we never claim that this is the truth, obviously.
It's not really that different to The Crown or the Windsors or any other interpretation. Obviously, it's different, but any other interpretation of the royals in that sense. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah. And like, getting called repellent trash by Daily Mail and being able to put that on the poster has, like, sold more tickets than any of the 5-star reviews have ever done. And then this year they wrote another piece again about the show, because we have, in our trigger warnings, we include Camilla Parker Bowles, and if you've seen the show, you know why. And yeah, they were saying, like, oh, these snowflakes, blah blah blah, they have to have trigger warnings for everything, even for Camilla, blah. But again,
It's free promo.
exactly, and being slagged off. But I mean, I'd rather be hated by the Daily Mail than be praised by the Daily Mail, obviously. So it's just at the moment like really funny. Like, there's been a couple of instances like that, and some people are saying, like, oh, this is so disrespectful to Diana's memory, which, I mean, they're welcome to have their opinion, but I think if anything, the show is like, very celebratory of Diana, and Diana was obviously like a big supporter of the queer community at the time as well. And I think people who are upset by that are often, I think it's the queer perspective that upsets them more than anything else, because I don't think they are that upset when, like, Elizabeth Debicki plays Diana in The Crown.
Comes back as a ghost.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, I mean, in a way, like, what is our version more disrespectful because we're queer, or because we slam Camilla's head into the floor? That could also
Call it a slag of death.
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, there hasn't really been that much stuff in terms of, like, obviously, Gwyneth Paltrow, we're using real names, we're using real events, but that's all stuff that is in the public eye. And we use transcripts of the court documents, and like it's not in anyone's interest, I think, to kind of tackle a fringe theatre company that's making a parody or a celebration of work. Same with the Jellicle show that you made about the 2019 movie version of Cats. Like, we did a lot of reading into like parody, law and fair use, and all that kind of stuff, but
We
also
spoke
like
to a lawyer as well, just to be yeah, like just to make sure that what we're doing is right. And like, with parody and satire and things like that, there's quite a lot of leeway.
yeah, but also like if you want to, if Gwyneth Paltrow wanted to send us a cease and desist, she would have done, and it also would have been great promo for us. But instead, she was asked about it in a magazine, and she said, "I try not to engage with that kind of stuff," and we put it on the poster.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, life's too short. Honestly, she's Gwyneth Paltrow, for God's sake.
So how is your process? Do you think it's changed? Because obviously you're more well known. You like obviously like from the way it looks, maybe your just publicity is brilliant, but from the way it looks, everything's kind of snowballed in terms of where you're going, what you're doing, audience sizes and stuff. Has your process of creating things like with the Fit Prince changed quite a lot, or are you in a similar creative process? Or
Good question. Do you think it has?
I think, well, I think it changes a bit, because of the time and because of, as in like, we are now creating, it was similar with Gwyneth actually, like we were creating Gwyneth while we're touring Diana, and we were commissioned to do it and we had to have it ready. Whereas I feel like both Diana and the show, the Jellicle show I wrote before, they could sort of like, I sort of wrote them in my own time and then then started pitching it. Whereas now people are like, okay, are you doing like, we sort of work, yeah, like we get
do
a
this show
deadline
on
earlier.
this date, and there has to be a show by
Then we
then.
just have like more of a deadline to actually create it. So I think a little bit more pressure that way. And I think you also, I mean, sometimes you feel like, the pressure because it's been so amazing. Like we've had such a wonderful time with these shows, and you want to make sure that the next show lives up to what people now expect an Awkward Prods show to be.
I think we think about our brand more than we would have done before, and I say brand in like inverted commas. But we know that audiences, as you say, they want and expect participation and like puppetry and multimedia. So we do think about like how do we factor those things in to make sure the audience know they're seeing an Awkward Prod show,
but still make sure that it's something very different. Like we obviously want the show to still be a surprise. But I think it also works in our favor, as in like now when we pitch, like when we started working on Fit Prince and we started like, pitching for various people to be involved in various ways, it was amazing to see like, how excited people were to be involved in it. Even people like, were maybe only like gonna film a small bit for it. And people who like whose work we really admire were like, oh my God, I'd love to be involved in this and stuff like that. So I think that was like, that feels very special and like affirming.
Yeah, would agree.
who do you admire? Like, who do you like? Because we love French and Saunders. They're like, like.
How could you not? We were asked at a Q&A post show once like who our comedy inspirations were, and I said like, classic SNL and 30 Rock and Kimmy Schmidt, and I was like, oh, Tina Fey. All of these things are Tina Fey, but like that, those are my kind of inspirations. Are like admiring like the writers on like the early to the mid period of The Simpsons, like those kind of people, but also like people who are also making queer theatre around and about. I we're friends with someone called Lockie Vernon, who is a ventriloquist and a puppeteer, and like I really admire their work for just silly puppetry stuff and ventriloquism. I think that's really fun. Who else are your who else do you admire?
I think you also draw it like it's funny how you draw inspiration from like so many things. And then like I sometimes find like, oh, this part in the script was based on like, this, early 2000s kids show I used to watch, or, this moment is inspired by, early Britney, or, whatever. Like there's so many, like sometimes it's not even inspirations from like, theater or comedy. It can just be like such like wildly different and from like so many different worlds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'd be easier to say who we admire when we're finally allowed to talk about who's in the show. So watch this space.
I wasn't. I was just curious. I love it when like you go and see something though, like what even like just us watching Operation Mincemeat last night. You go see something that's like so inspired and you think, oh, I've never thought about flipping it around like that. Or like I love going to see new things because it does just throw like it lights little fires of ideas in your head, doesn't it? And it's not that you're gonna go out and copy it, but it's just like seeing a fresh take on something is really motivating.
There's a creator, a performer called Hayley McGee who made one of the best pieces of theatre I've ever seen, called
Ages of Feeling.
Ages of Feeling. I blanked on the
multiple times, and it's so good. And you know, when I watched that, I sort of started thinking like, at first you start thinking like, I can do this and this, and it's like, no, I'm just what I'm trying, like what I'm thinking right now is just I don't want to copy her work, and that's not really what I want to do. But like it's like she is just so watching that, you're almost like, I just wish I could make anything like this because she's so amazing.
I interviewed her for a theatre podcast a couple of years ago, and she talked about input and output as her creative mode. So when she is performing a show, she's in creative output, and she will perform until there's nothing left to output, and then she goes back into input mode, which is when she watches loads of TV and she goes to the theatre and she reads more stuff. And like I think that was a really useful way to phrase it in my mind, because you say like you draw inspiration from loads of things, but you draw inspiration from everything that you see in daily life, right? It always informs your work. So like I very much like the input stages that we go through. It's just as much fun as the output as well.
And Beyonce, always Beyonce.
Always.
We went to see Cowboy Carter the other day,
yeah,
and I mean she is obviously just like outstanding, and I think like watching someone where every single moment of, I mean, obviously what we do and what she's doing is quite different in many ways, unfortunately. But like where, you know, like every single moment is just so considered, so detailed, and so like flawlessly executed. And I mean, I'm way too chaotic and messy to be quite that detailed. But like I think that I found that like just really inspiring.
Yeah.
I mean, like like the storytelling through
visuals,
through everything,
performance,
and like the combination of like, you know, all the different aspects that come together in like a show like that. Like
she's a good person to channel, I think.
Yeah, and like we always have Beyonce in like our pre-show playlist because I feel like there's nothing that gets me like as ready for a show as like Beyonce.
Love that. And Davina McCall, of course.
And Davina McCall, yeah.
She's one of the new cameos. She's not.
Yeah.
I love that.
So we were talking to Jerry actually, and it's something we talk about a lot, about Edinburgh Fringe and like the pros and cons of doing it, and I would talk to Jason a lot about it as well, when in your show process or your career process or whatever to do it. You've used the Fringe really well, and tell us all about this here in a minute, because that's very exciting. But what are your thoughts? We've just started asking everybody this now just because we just want to know. What are your thoughts on the Fringe as a company you've used it really successfully as a springboard? And do you think there's positives, negatives?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going to the Fringe every year apart from like, you know, the COVID break since 2017. And I do think, you know, like I think the Fringe is fantastic. There's nothing like it. And it's so inspiring to be surrounded by, you know, that level of creativity from so many different forms of performance and from people like, you know, from all over the world. And also like the people at the Fringe are people who, when Fringe is not really like, you know, financially successful for the majority of people. So people are really there for pure passion. Most people aren't there for like, you know, a paycheck or anything like that. So I feel like you're just surrounded by that like level of passion as well. Like people who really like, you know, fight for and believe in their work and work so hard to make it happen. And I feel like that's a really inspiring environment.
Yeah.
Then Fringe is obviously too expensive, and that means that so many people can't afford to do it. Like for the first few years, most of the times we did the Fringe, we didn't do a full run. Like we were up there for like half of it or like a couple of weeks because it was, you know, we just couldn't afford it.
And And like we were lucky that we had friends who could put us up for a couple of weeks. Like we had free, essentially free or very, very cheap accommodation those times. Otherwise, we just wouldn't be able to go.
No, so it was like it is really tough and really challenging, and it's only like now in the last couple of years when we've sort of like our shows have become quite known at the Fringe that we've been able to like get the bigger venues and be able to like do the full festival and put some proper marketing behind it and stuff, because it is
the greatest place in the world for that month. You live in this utopia where you forget the outside world exists, and like you were saying, like you just don't read the news, you don't do anything that isn't the show, and
you're
like,
just in this bubble.
Yeah, and that's a really joyous and lovely experience to be able to have when it's going well. And like we never take for granted that our shows generally perform well at the Fringe and sell well, because my God, is it still a slog regardless of the state of the sales of your show or the success or whatever. I think there needs to be some sort of examining of the festival generally to figure out how we can make it more sustainable for people, both physically and financially and emotionally and mentally. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a really trying and taxing month.
Yeah. And it's also like, all the businesses and all the landlords, all the hotels, etc., are obviously making loads and loads of money during the Fringe. And the people who are actually making the festival, like the artists, so few of them even break even, let alone make any profit, which obviously, like, the model is broken. Like, there needs to be, we need to look at it to make it better.
But with all that said, it is still incredible. Like, I wouldn't miss it for the world. I really, like, I thought before I went for the first time, I was like, the Fringe is my living nightmare. There's hundreds of thousands of people on the streets and everyone's throwing a flyer in your hand, and I just don't want to be seen or perceived, and that's really stressful. And then you go there and you go like, yeah, this is it. This is really good. Like last year before Gwyneth opened, it had been a really, really busy and quite stressful period right up until we arrived in Edinburgh. And I remember being on the train up there going, God, I just don't know if I'm like, I don't think I'm ready for this. Yeah, I don't think I've quite got the capacity, blah, blah, blah. And then getting in the cab and pulling up outside the courtyard and seeing all the Pleasance yellow and seeing all the show posters up, and immediately just feeling my whole body and brain go, yeah, no, we've got this. Like, this, we're back in our comfort zone. Exactly. You're home. Like, I love it. I love it so much.
And it is like, it is really exciting in that you don't know, like, we've done shows there and all of a sudden, like you have, like last year we had people then coming up after the show saying like, oh, I run this company in the US and I had Gwyneth come into our offices and pitch this product for us, blah, blah, had these conversations, or you end up to have like,
Neil Patrick Harris in your front row.
Yeah. Like, yeah, Graham Norton came to see the show, or
Joe
like
Locke came to see the show.
Yeah,
Mulvaney came to see the show.
Nicola Coughlan, like all these amazing people who you'd like, who are incredible, and you don't necessarily like
know that they're going to be there. Suddenly they're there.
Who's going to be there? Or you walk around the corner and bump into Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Yeah, that was fun. She was lovely.
Wow. So what are you doing? Tell us then about your show, why it's special.
Oh, yes. So obviously all month we have the Fit Prince who get switched on the square and the Frosty Castle the night before and set up here.
And this is actually the first time we're debuting a show at the Edinburgh Fringe as well, because that's something, because the Fringe is so expensive, and because like obviously once you're committed to it, if you do the full run, you then have to perform every day. So we've always opened shows elsewhere to sort of like
proof of concept.
Exactly. And then take them to the Fringe when they have like, a bit of buzz around them and we've proven that they work and we can sort of like tweak them for that. Whereas this time we're actually like opening at the Fringe, which is, I mean, exciting. And I feel like it's the right time to do it, but it is like, it just has to work.
But
besides that,
we also have, in the final week of the festival, we're doing Diana at 11 p.m. every night, which is going to be mad. But we're also doing a special thing, yes. So on Saturday, the 16th of August at 11:15 a.m. in the 750-seater Pleasance Ground, we are getting legally married
on stage.
In its own little separate show creation thing.
I love it. It's fantastic. Did you just like come up with that in the middle of the night one day, or like is this a life goal?
Well, we knew so we're having a small kind of private ceremony thing in September, which our friend is the celebrant for. So we knew we had to do the legal bit first, and we realized that well, you were like, well, we're gonna because we were gonna do it in our home borough of London, and then like it was we obviously wanted like the cheapest version where you just walk in and sign the paper, and they're like, oh, you can only do it on the first Tuesday of every month at 4 a.m. and it's booked up for 6 years in advance. You know, like
It was, yeah, like it was really hard to find a slot there. And we were on the world tour of Diana and we're talking to Billy, our technician. And I think I was sort of suggesting, like, well, if it's so hard to find the time in London, why don't we do it in Edinburgh? Like, that could be quite fun because we're going to be up there. We know we're going to have, like, a lot of our performer friends up there as well. Like, and I was just at first envisioning it as us going to, like, a registrar's office and do it just like legally that way.
But then we discovered you don't need a registered venue in Scotland. As long as the person who owns the place that you're in says yes, you can do it literally anywhere.
And we're like, wouldn't it be funny and ridiculous to do it on stage? And
so we asked Pleasance, and they were like, "Yeah, all right."
And we spoke to like the like registrar, and they're like happy to do it. So and then we're like, so we'll have an hour's slot there, which is basically like a show that will include us getting legally married and having like some readings and songs from various special guests.
It is, as far as we know, the first time that a legal ceremony marriage has happened on stage at the Edinburgh Fringe, as far as we know, which is pretty cool, pretty fun.
So you've got a good audience. What do you say, 750 seater?
750 seater. There's still tickets left. Please. But also like it's like £12 a ticket, which is just we think the right level of A, silliness, but B, enough for you to go, oh yeah, let's go to a wedding. Fuck it. Like, let's go see a thing. How silly.
Cocktail.
Yeah, exactly. Also, like it's the Fringe. You know what I mean? Like that's quite a cheap ticket nowadays for a show in that kind of venue.
And that money then will help us fund like our ceremony in September.
Weddings are expensive. I don't even know. Oh my God. As soon as you tell someone that something's for a wedding, the price just like goes up by 1,000%.
Yeah. Yeah, it is wild.
So we've got to pay for it somehow.
Well, I think it's the perfect way. I love it.
Yeah.
What do you think about because you've mentioned the Pleasance a few times, and we came to see Gwyneth in the Pleasance with the revolving stage.
Oh, which is now broken. R.I.P. the Revolve.
Yeah, we had so much fun with that revolving stage.
It broke during someone else's show, which is gutting for them, but thank God it wasn't during ours.
A couple of times when we were skiing on the revolving stage, they triggered it the wrong way and we started skiing backwards.
A great bit. Sorry, we interrupted your question.
Just assume that was part of it, though, wouldn't they, with your shows? I think they would just assume that.
Yeah, there was the same happened actually last night in Bristol because there were power cuts. So like multiple times during the show, like it got quite stressful and frustrating at the time, but
multiple times the power went off, the lights went off, the projector went off, and we had a show stop, and I had to come out and say like, this isn't a bit.
No,
this is really it.
Yeah,
it happened like especially at one point when I was there, and I go like,
I didn't even realize how lucky I was.
And then boom, power cut. It's like, maybe not that lucky. Like people after were like, was that planned? And we're like, no.
I'm sorry, the Pleasance.
Yeah.
The Pleasance.
I was just wondering about like kind of aligning with venues, because they seem to have supported a lot of what you've done, and you do other stuff there as well, don't you? I think.
Yeah.
Go on.
So Nick Norton, who used to be head of theatre at Pleasance, he was really the person who sort of like saw our work and took us under his wing and really believed in us. And I think that's thanks to him, we like really got in with Pleasance, and we were made associate artists there, which is like a 2-year program.
Like mentorship,
Yeah. And they were very supportive in our work. So like we first opened Diana there, we did Gwyneth there, we took those to Fringe, we did like our Jellicle show there as well then, and we've done some like quizzes and other things with them as well.
Yeah. This year's so the Fit Prince is obviously it'll be at Pleasance in Edinburgh. It's a co-production with King's Head Theatre in London, who are also like this wonderful team of creatives who again like same as Pleasance, really like want to support companies who are like up and coming and like doing really cool, different, interesting stuff,
and a lot of queer work in particular.
Yeah, and so they have been really great with this, like supporting the creation of this show. But I think like aligning yourself with a venue, if you're lucky enough to have a venue sort of say like, yeah, we want to support you guys, is really important, especially at Edinburgh. Like obviously, every company at the Fringe or whatever has its pros and cons, but like I love Pleasance at Edinburgh. I think the program that they have, the work that they put on, the venues that they have,
and like, you know, Pleasance Courtyard is just like, you know, the like the most iconic place at the Fringe, really, and like the place to hang out. So like that is really fun.
But like they also care about the people that are working with them. So like Pleasance performers, artists, creatives who are working on Pleasance program shows have access to like psychotherapy during the festival if they need it. They have access to a whole host of like well-being support. There's the artists only bar, which obviously like most venues have their own artists only space,
But they have a wellness program, which I don't think any of the, I mean, I don't know, but I know that at least when they introduced it, that was something other organizers didn't have, and they have like Lauren Silver, this amazing woman who runs it, who's like, you know, yeah, like genuinely care about people, and because obviously like Fringe can be very stressful, and especially if things happen outside of the festival as well. Like, you know, some people go through really like personal things whilst they also have to perform every day and be around like this environment. So it's really good that that support exists.
Yeah, we're very, very grateful to Pleasance and to Nick and to King's Head. Like, you know, I think you can't whilst we have started off, and it still is very much the two of us, you know, making this happen. You can't also pretend that there aren't people there who've helped you and celebrated you all the way through as well. Or, you know, as you said, Diana started in a shipping container in the car park of Pleasance, London, which was what, 60 seats, and
70.
But it was something. But then within what, a year of its creation, or a year and a half, we were playing the Clapham Grand, and like that's another 700 seats. You know, like you have to celebrate the people that have helped you grow, right?
Yeah, a team is, you know, even if it is just the two of you, quite often it is just the two of us, but we do have a lot of people that we pull on and that will come and help us, and they quite like working with us, you know, they say.
but yeah, it's so
everybody that we can have a little bit of input from or work with.
Yeah. And it's so amazing to like when you find your collaborators, and you know, like they will elevate the show in ways you don't necessarily plan. Like we're now here, like we're touring with James, who's our lighting designer and has also worked as a stage manager on Gwyneth's show, and we'll work on the new one. Like just his eye on like adding things to certain moments in the show through like your own lighting design. You're like, oh, I didn't even think of that, and now it looks better than ever. Or like you talk to a designer and they just like have these ideas that you would never think of, and like so many of these creatives just help you elevate the show. And I also am so grateful, like I'm so excited for the Fit Prince, because the team we have involved in it are so, I mean, everyone's really talented, but also so nice and so fun. Like we just have so much fun together. And I think I never want to have a work environment that isn't, you know, fun and open. And obviously we're going to work really hard, and obviously it's going to be stressful at times as well. And I will expect, you know, a lot from everyone involved. But like if it's not fun, and if the people aren't, you know, filling you with joy, like I feel like there have been times in the past when we worked on projects and it's just been stressful, or people, you know, have been rude or whatever, difficult in various ways. And I feel like we don't have any time for that anymore. It's
I've just Googled it, and there's a Kim Cattrall quote that I always pops to mind for this, just like more than 5 years. From 2019. And the quote is for the Guardian, Kim Cattrall, "I don't want to be in a situation for even an hour where I'm not enjoying myself." And like that feels, you know, I feel close to Kim Cattrall in so many ways. But like that's the way, do you know what I mean? Like, and I think now that we are privileged enough to do this full time, you know, we don't have side jobs anymore. This is our work, and we do it together, and we do it with our friends. And like it's given that we have found ourselves and worked hard enough to be and fortunate enough to be in this situation, we might as well make the most of that and make sure we are having fun. Even when things are stressful, we still want to be able to look at it and be like, yeah, this is a shit situation, or this is really stressful, but how fun and how stupid that this is happening for us at all. Do you know what I mean? That sounds all so deep and wanky, but like you have to think about it that way.
And also be able to take the opportunities when they are in front of you as well, because it's scary going into it full time and not having the other jobs and the other things going on.
Yeah, big time.
Absolutely. And I feel like there's so many times where, you know, I've suggested a project, or we've embarked on one of our own things, and be like, I don't know how this is going to work. And it's not like we have a backup, and like neither of us come from money or anything like that. So it's not like, but I'm just like, it just has to work.
Yeah. And we've always been fortunate enough that it has. But also, like, you know, we work fucking hard to make sure that it has, because there hasn't been another option.
Yeah.
Long may that continue.
Do you have time for 2 more questions? I don't know what your time limit is.
For you, anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm aware that this Zoom call we're on right now has 5 minutes left, but we can always start another one.
Does it? Does it cut?
I've got a little countdown. We'll see what happens.
Okay.
Yeah, we can always restart.
But we can start another one. So yes, for you, anything.
You're being dictated. We were talking about this. You know, when like computers dictate to you, furniture dictates to you, relax, bath, drink, eat pasta, like fuck off. Anyway.
Fuck off. I want a sofa that says fuck off written on it.
Well, have you seen our mugs?
Oh, very good.
That was our favorite review we ever got from someone who's passed away now. So we put it on all our merchandise that we don't have.
Yeah.
We've just all fans with them on.
Oh, nice. I love it. We love a fan. Love a fan. So, yeah.
So my question before we ask the question, was so we wrote a musical that was kind of interactive and it's funny and all those things, but it was really supposed to be a bit of an exercise in trying to write and trying to create and seeing if we could and then seeing how it would go down, and we didn't mean for it to be interactive, but similarly we got to the point where it was the deadline and it wasn't finished, so we were like, but we'll just use the audience and that'll be fine. And we're quite lucky here, we've got a really supportive crowd that will get on board with whatever we're doing, and so that kind of worked and blah blah blah. And then we accidentally ended up kind of taking it around for about a year, and then it kind of hit a point where we were it needed to be different, and it needed to be, we made a few there's things we would change about it. But so that's the background to this question that I was thinking about. What you've done is you haven't gone back and like, or have you gone back and changed any of your things you've created new? Would you ever go back and, like, you know how you're saying like more and more people bring in more and more ideas, so like Diana, would you ever go back and like think, oh well, I'd do this differently now and add in this and this and this? Because we could work on it's called Hugh the Musical, and we could work on it, like it could be going for 10 years and we could change it every year and we feel like it could grow, but we've actually decided to leave it and move on. What are your thoughts on kind of leaving things and finishing them, or do you like to go back? What's your thoughts on that?
I think we see our shows as almost like living, breathing things. Like Diana, for example, is quite different today as it was when we first opened it. We have, elevated a lot of the design elements. Like we have many more outfits. I think always like, I recently listened to like a clip of me doing the Diana voice from the beginning as well. I was like, oh, that's quite different from what it is now. And obviously, like a lot of the story is the same, but we have added things, removed things. We like last year we included Gina Deval makes like a video appearance who plays Diana on Broadway, which was really fun to be able to like include her. That's like a very ridiculous moment with 2 Dianas talking to each other. The amazing Rob Madge joined in like an audio role voicing Mother Teresa, which was new for this year. So I feel like we do always try and see what we can add. Actually, like for last week when we performed in Brighton, we then added like, and I mean only small things, that we add like a hat for one scene. We added a face shield when like Diana has when she's clearing landmines. So I feel like we're always looking to elevate the show, and especially when we bring it back and we do something new with it, I don't want it to feel like, oh, we're just doing the same thing again.
Yeah.
Like I think especially last year we brought the show back for like a longer London run, and before that we really were like, okay, we've obviously done this show quite a lot already, but if we are going to bring it back now, I want to make sure it feels new and fresh and it's the best version it possibly can be.
And also our shows are so pop culture based, right? And memes and online culture and all that kind of stuff. So anytime there's a new meme or a new silly thing, if we can crowbar it into a show that we're doing at the time, we will. Like we did that with Gwyneth a lot, and we do it with Diana. Like we've got, in the current version of Diana, she does an advert for Nothing Beats a Jet2 holiday, because that's a really silly meme that I'm enjoying on TikTok at the minute. So we're doing that. So we do keep them alive. We do change them. Would I revisit Diana and build from scratch again? I think if you gave me an unlimited budget, absolutely I would. But it has to maintain the aesthetic of they've done this themselves and it's made of cardboard and the whole thing could fall over at any minute.
Yeah.
So we do like to keep them alive. We do like to build on them and grow and make them better. I think it's hard when you are the writers and performers and directors to ever be like, okay, the show is set now. Like the idea of having a show set and just performing it the same way.
You have a script, Diana, that you published, right?
Yes.
That's
And
still
even
the
after that,
same.
it changed. No, like it's
a lot of it's, I mean, similar-ish, but like there's been quite a few changes since then.
I
So
think it says at the front, like this script is correct as of
yeah,
this
I did
version.
update. So we released the script in May 2023, and then I updated it again after the Fringe that year, I think, because it done so well at the Fringe, and was like, let's add in the changes we made for the Fringe and have that version. So that version is still like, you know, mostly accurate, but there are certain things that goes in and out. And also we toured the show internationally this year, and which was really exciting, but a lot of some of the jokes, like always, like it's a very British show, and some of the references we had in the show were British. Like we referenced, you know, Lauren Kelly and Captain Sir Tom Moore, and I was like, I'm not sure that, you know, people in like Thailand or the Netherlands will necessarily get these references. So we then sort of like found some international versions of them and things like that. So
that's where Mother Teresa came from as well. So Mother Teresa's replaced Captain Sir Tom Moore. You know, like you find a RIP. You find a way to like keep it going, keep it alive, keep it fresh.
And I also think I am very easy. I have got a very short attention span, and I'm very easily bored. So I would struggle to do the same show over and over. It's like I always try and find new things, and sometimes it's also just like, you know, the way you perform it. But I think also the way we involve the audience means that it's always quite different and fresh in that way and fun. But yeah, I think being the writer of it is sort of like a double-edged sword, because it means that we can keep on working, but it also feels like we're never done. Like sometimes I miss the times where I'm just an actor in a project and, you know, I get my lines and I don't change or question them. I'm just learning them the best way, or like find the best way to work with the words I have, rather than keep tweaking them until I'm happy, which I never will be.
Yes, we found that again with ours, because it became audience participation a lot. And actually, we started with a cats dance workshop, which we tried to get all the audience to do, and their faces, they're all like. And then we came across your Jellicle show, and we were like, oh shit, it really looks like
we had the only famous person really who's come to see our show is Johnny Walker.
Oh, Johnny Walker.
He did not want to be there.
Yeah, there's a surprise.
You stand up, we're going to teach you how to be like a cat. Because our kind of thoughts was everyone went to a cat dance workshop when they were 15, right? But not everybody did, only theatre kids did. Johnny Walker didn't. So he was like, and he was looking at his wife like, get me out of here. That was off, because there was only about 20 people in the audience as well. But anyway. Sorry, carry on.
No. Just bringing the audience in, and actually we've just written a cabaret for the town that we're in, Shaftesbury. They have a fringe where it is big for the town. It's really fun. Yeah. But we've written this cabaret, and actually we realised when we did a launch, we haven't got not very much audience participation in the same way. And we're like, are people going to be expecting that now?
Yeah, and that's people come to our shows now, and do you find that people just wait? They wait to be involved, and then we're like, we're going to have to write some in because people can be just.
People, do you know what? It's weird when there's a fine line with our audience participation, which is we never force someone to be involved, because obviously we know that doesn't work well, and if they're not having fun, no one else has fun. But also the people who are like desperate and like telling you how clearly they want to be involved are sometimes also the people you don't want to involve either, because like there's this fine line of being in the show but not being the show, right? Like there's I used to work at Radio 2, and watching presenters work there, you know, you learn very quickly that the rule is the presenter will make you the guest funny. If you the guest decide to be funny, quote unquote, it won't work. It won't land. Like, work with the material that you're being given. That's not to say like, oh, our writing is so good, whatever. But like, you're set up to win. We set you up to win.
Yeah.
If you just do the bare minimum, you're gonna have a great time.
We're like, and the joke is usually never on them. Like, we very much, you know, lift them up rather than anything else. But when they come on and if you know, on the rare occasions they will like not read the lines, or they start ad-libbing and trying to make jokes of things.
There for one of when we came to see Gwyneth, someone was
a woman
on her own script, And we were like, "Whoa, this is interesting." You handled it really well, but she was not reading any of the lines and just going with her own plot.
Yeah,
And that can be. I mean,
sometimes
sometimes it can be funny, and sometimes they can add something that's actually funny. But a lot of the time, it's also been like we have carefully constructed what it is you're gonna say. Sometimes they start saying something, and then that will go against what actually happens later, or things like that. And then it's like, well, you now kind of like ruined this bit a bit.
Yeah, but like they're only trying their best. They're only having fun.
And also, like, we're very grateful that people are happy and comfortable enough to get involved, and like that feels really fun. And often now when we come back to places, people are like already been like they've seen our work before. They know, like, or be like, oh, can you pick my friend? Can you do this? And always like it's not we can't always do what it is, like pick their friends and do, or help them in the way they want. But like it feels really exciting that they are like really up for it and really ready for it.
I do the casting for Diana before it starts, as you know. I'm running around the audience with this massive pile of roll cards trying to cast people, and actually the question that I can now ask people, which is really like very affirming but also very helpful, is I can go up to a group of people and say, have you seen an awkward prod show before? And quite often they will go, yep, we saw Gwyneth, or we've seen Diana before, or whatever, which is great, because then I go, perfect, so you know how the audience participation works in our shows. I'd love you to play this role. And it just bypasses a whole thing of explaining how it all works and how you are here to, like, you're here to win. It's fine, it's safe,
Because often when people
nepotism, really, isn't it now?
Yeah, exactly. God bless nepotism.
Exactly. Because so often, I think audience participation, British people can be quite scared of it. And so often when people end up saying no, afterwards, they're like, oh, I wish we'd say yes, when they actually see what it is. Because we're never going to, like, it's not like, stand up and we'll start, like, mocking them, or their appearance or their relationships, or, whatever. Like, it's very much like they get to be funny and uplifted. And it's funny to see how the audience always, like, rally behind them. And
there was a girl last night who at the opening night of Bristol who I asked to play an offstage role, and she said, which I hadn't had before and I really genuinely appreciated, she said, like, I'd rather not, but if you're struggling to find someone to play the role elsewhere in the audience or whatever, and it's time to start, like, then I will do it. And she would have been great, I've no doubt. She was, but like that, I was like, do you know what? That's great. Thank you, because that's really helpful. Like, as it happens, someone else, I felt it was fine, but that was the perfect middle ground of like, if you need me, I will, but I'd rather sit back.
Well, we needed 11 volunteers, and there were like 9 people watching it. So you're like,
yep,
getting like the sound person in and like the volunteers on the door. Like, can you just
but
make?
isn't that kind of also sometimes the most fun when it's like that?
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's funny. Joseph's cast the roles beforehand, and then there's a few roles that I, as Diana, in the moment, just like throw it to people. And especially, I think we got a bit better at it now, but especially when we started, because you get the feeling for people, obviously, like who could be good, and obviously it depends on where they're sitting and stuff as well. But you sort of like, if they're desperately avoiding eye contact, then obviously not. But equally, like if they're too keen or they seem too drunk, obviously not as well. But there was so often like I would just end up casting people that Josef had already cast.
Oh yeah. Oh, the amount of times that I've heard you like being given the Oscar when Diana wins an Oscar, obviously, and say like, "Oh, thank you. Oh gosh, didn't you used to nanny for me?" And they've already been up on stage already, and you're like, "Oh shit, we've done it again."
Because we just like obviously have the same feeling of like the kind of people who are upward and who's good.
It's magic. I love it.
It is really fun, and it's really fun like trying to get like. I love when the cast is really different and you get like, people of all ages and experience and stuff, and like coming together to sort of like build this version. And sometimes like, even making friends, like the people who played Diana's mom and dad in the show, for example, like so often afterwards, they're like, you see them like take a photo together or something like that, but like they don't know each other, but they've now had like this
They've had a baby together.
Exactly.
We had coloured cards that we used to hand out, and we had one where on the table that they were at, it was a very bizarre show, but on the table, no one wanted to do it, so they kept giving this one person all the cards. So she kept coming up. She was everybody. Why are you back up here?
That's so good. God bless her. Well done. God loves a trier.
And you do love those people because like there are those times when like people don't want to get involved or they don't know what, like at first they can be hesitant, and you do need those people who are really stepping up. We always find like when we get for the Diana show, because the two people who actually come up first and open the show even before Diana enters stage, are her parents, the audience members playing her mum and dad. And yeah, mother.
Mother.
It's so on the shows where they are really giving it, and like they come up and they bring loads of energy and they are having a lot of fun. Like that just really helps the show, and it also means that everyone who sees that are like, oh, that's how I participate in this show.
Yeah.
And then everyone who come up will just be great. And on the like happens very rarely, but on the rare occasion they come up and they're quite, shy and withdrawn. Obviously that's fine and the show still works, but like, then when people see that that is the level they are given, they think like, oh, that's how you participate in this show. And it really like sets the tone. So
do you feel when you're with those kind of audience roles and your stuff that do you get a feel for like who the right like casting essentially is for a particular role? You're like, oh, we know the pairing, i.e., clearly it doesn't happen every show, but the perfect pairing for Diana's mum and dad is usually a woman in her mid-60s and a twink. There's something about the complete separation of clearly they have no sexual chemistry, they have nothing in common, anything like that, that creates this incredible pairing. Like, do you find that there's stuff like that with the participation you do?
Yeah.
You have to cast quickly, don't you? I mean, we had one bit where we've got this like getting ready song and it's all ridiculous, and we brought in someone to come and do our makeup, and which we always try to do now as a man who really wouldn't, but because and then get to do the Macarena with us.
There, yeah.
But yeah,
and I have to marry someone, and you have to pick that person. And like, there's been lots of times where like, she could have been very awkward. Yeah, there's been
boyfriends in there.
Yeah, let's not marry again.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think you do get a feel, don't you, for the kind of energy people give off and what you can, and then sometimes you misjudge it and you're like, damn it.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting with like, getting a man to do makeup is really fun in itself, and like there are bits where like whenever we are like with Diana's dad or with Gwyneth's husband and Gwyneth skiing, like they are men, and because there's a certain way, especially like me in drag, that I can interact with them that brings out comedy in a way that like it wouldn't be funny. Like in Gwyneth would do this thing where like my husband thinks I'm going to kiss him, and like you can see his fear and stuff. Funny to put a man in that position. It would be like it would just be so uncomfortable to put a woman in that position. Like it's all like you like obviously like anyone can play anything really, but you sort of have to think about how it's perceived as well, and like certain roles just work better for a specific gender because it's just more fun that way.
Yeah. Anything that I can do that takes the piss out of cis men.
Yeah, exactly.
It's easy. It's an easy target, isn't it? Really.
They've had it too easy for too long.
And it's funny. It's like sort of like middle-aged straight man coming up to play like Gwyneth's husband, and at first like is really confident, will make joke and feel like, oh, I'm the king of the show now, and then we get to this moment where he thinks he's going to have to kiss like a man in drag, and you just see how they're like start to panic. Where some people are actually surprising up for it. There's certain people are like, we're about to kiss, and they're like, they are ready and they start leaning in and be like, oh no, this is a joke. We're not actually going to.
Calm down, unless you're hot.
I'm very flattered.
Of awakening for some people, I'm sure.
So we could talk to you all day, we feel, and listen to your lovely stories, but with a conclusion, and thank you so much for making the time to speak to us as well. We could go one of two ways. If you could either go back to your younger selves before you sort of, when you're on the cusp of this journey, what would you say to your younger selves? It's sort of with the thought of anyone who is just standing there wanting to step in and try something, and it doesn't need to be in the creative arts, people that there's a block, isn't there, sometimes. How do you start? What would you say to those people back on?
I think I would say, as in like, don't wait for permission, just do it. Because I feel like for so many years, I trained as an actor and I only saw myself as an actor. And then I moved to the UK, and, when you are foreign to start with, and then also like, queer, and I guess have like, a weird casting type maybe, I was only very rarely seen for anything, and if I was seen for something, it would just be like, here's a German receptionist with one line or something like that. And I just felt like I could do more, but I was just sort of like, working really hard, trying to like, apply for every audition and stuff I could find. And then it was only when I started creating my own work, I actually found success. But I feel like I never saw myself as like a writer or a director or a producer at first. So, because I almost thought like those were different kinds of people who had like different skill set, and they were almost like, a different level of human. But then I was like, actually, most of it is just about doing it. And obviously, like, it takes work and skill and time to get good at it, but I feel like you don't have to wait to get to do the things you want to do. You can start doing them.
Yeah, mine's very similar. When I was at drama school, I mean, I was on a foundation course. I was 18, like I was precocious and pretentious and loud, and I have no doubt incredibly irritating to be around. And that's okay. I've made peace with my younger self. But when I was there, I remember being told by like the teacher and my classmates when we were doing a devising piece, like, you can't be an actor and a stage manager and a technician. Like, you're here to be an actor, so you be an actor. And being told to kind of like stop trying to do other stuff. And I was like, well, I'm just trying to help create a piece of work. I'm just trying to make stuff happen. And I think that, the industry was maybe different then. That was 2013 that I was there, and I feel like people understand now you have to be more than just one thing. But I think that would be what I tell my younger self, is that you can and should be all of those things, because otherwise nothing's going to get done. Because not only should you not ask for permission, but you shouldn't wait for other people to offer to do stuff for you, because they're not going to.
No.
Do your own shit, and then people will be like, oh, that's so amazing and I'd love to be involved. And you're like, well, fucking finally. Cool, thanks. Yes, as it happens, I'd love for you to be involved, but you took your damn time.
And I think it's one of the, like, you get to work on the things that you actually feel passionate about. Because, like, as an actor, you obviously don't really get to choose your projects most of the time, or very few people are fortunate enough to actually get to pick. You just get whatever you can. Whereas actually, like, when you create your own work, you do get to work on things that you feel passionate about. And I mean, no one would ever cast me as Gwyneth Paltrow or Princess Diana, but we've made that happen ourselves, which is really exciting. And also, it's nice to have, when you actually create your own things, the things that sort of like, I guess growing up you saw as your like weirdness or even weakness are now like your strengths and things you're celebrated for, like, our our queerness and our sense of humor and stuff, and like, seeing people celebrate that when we do a show and like laugh and applaud that. I'm like, this is the same things I would be called F slurs for in school, and now people are clapping and cheering.
Channel Beyonce and Kim Cattrall.
Yeah.
That's really good advice.
So the Footprints is going out at the Edinburgh Fringe, and then did you say you're taking that on tour?
So no, it will do. We have some London previews, July 15th to 18th at the Pleasance, London. We then have all month at the Fringe, and then we do a Christmas run at King's Head, Islington, 2nd December to 3rd of January.
Hopefully we'll be touring at some point, but we haven't got anything confirmed yet.
Many discussions.
We'll have to make sure it's a good show first.
Otherwise, we'll disappear into the sunset and you'll never see us again.
Well, we will be there at the King's Head at some point. We'll make sure we get tickets for that.
We will.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having us.
Yeah,
this has been
so
such
nice.
Thank you so much for being on our brave list and then saying yes. We have a brave list of people we want to ask, and
that's the advice. Ask the brave list.
Yeah.
It was the scary list, but you're not that scary.
No.
Also, how ridiculous that we're on the brave list. Do you know what I mean? Just like send us a message and say hi.
But I think that's also a thing, like, which we've learned, like, when we've started asking people, sometimes, people we've admired a long time, to be involved in our shows in any ways. And most people, I mean, respond very positively. And like, sometimes it's not possible for whatever reason, but like, no one will ever be like, oh, fucking hell, I can't believe they asked me. It's more like, oh, that's so nice. I'm so flattered to be asked. Like, everyone responds so positively. And I mean, for whatever reasons, obviously it doesn't always work out. But I think, like,
it's always nice to be told someone likes your work and wants you to be involved in a thing. Do you know what I mean? YOLO.
What is my hair doing with this background?
Because we have the blurred background, so our hair is blurring. Anyway,
yeah.
You cut your hair, do you think? Because then what would you do about Diana? Because we think about, if we go blonde, we ruin our whole branding.
Well, so when it was your own hair, but now as of last year for the Fringe, it is now a wig. So this is just grown out of his actual hair, but it will be shaved before the Fringe because we had a wig for Gwyneth and we had a wig for Diana. But also he's playing a man in the new show, so we can have a man haircut.
So I really need a haircut now, and I'm gonna dye it all blonde before the previews again. So because
you need to look very Swedonian.
Very Swedonian.
And I need to look very New York, which is where my character's from. I don't really know what that means. We'll figure it out.
Bagels.
Yeah. Exactly. You run a bakery, so.
Oh yeah, true.
Well, we really hope you enjoyed that as much as we did.
We've so just loved hearing about their process, their creativity, just all the brilliant things that they're doing. And we can't wait to see them in their show at the end of the year.
Yeah. We even used a piece of advice that, there was loads of advice that we are going to use, but their advice about using negative press for positive promotion, which we used this week for our Fringe show, didn't we?
We did, yeah.
And it worked a treat, guys. Thank you so much. So if you have a creative project that you've been working on or that you're stuck in,
we are giving you permission
to not ask permission and
just do it anyway.